Welcome to Rewind, the show where we explore late 90s and early 2000s pop culture that has impacted me and many others. And on today's episode, we're talking about Xbox.
Xbox is arguably one of the most badass things you could say in your lifetime. You can't talk about video games without hearing the word Xbox. It is one of the three video game colossal titans in the market. Usually Sony and Microsoft compete every year to see who has a bigger dick, while Nintendo is off in its own little world. It usually comes down to who makes the least amount of dumb decisions and who has the better exclusive titles.
Sony usually wins in the exclusive department, but hey, this video is about Xbox, not Piss Station. Am I right, gamers?
On November 15th, 2001, Mr. Bill Gates decided to slide his sneaky peen into the video game market by creating a console that turned out to be one of the coolest names and consoles in video games, called the Xbox. The name derives from their graphics API, DirectX.
Xbox had entered the video game console market at a weird time, not to mention that they were already late, with Nintendo being in the market since the 80s with the NES and Sony with the PlayStation since '94. The video game market is kind of a rough one to get into, especially if you're wanting to compete with well-established brands such as Nintendo and Sony. That being said, Xbox had a little help from the name Microsoft, so it's not like it was a brand new startup company created over an afternoon lunch sesh.
Let's make a game console.
Okay.
Yeah.
Microsoft is a humongous company creating software for computers. Yep, when you hear the word Windows, the operating system on your computer, yeah, that's Microsoft. It's worth about $1 trillion, so I mean, yeah, Xbox had some money behind it. But it was able to enter the video game marketplace and honestly kick some serious ass as far as creating games and ways for gamers to play together. The whole reason Mr. Bill even decided to get into the console industry was because he saw how popular the PlayStation was, and with the announcement of the PlayStation 2, he grew worried that consumers would stop using computers due to Sony advertising the PS2 as a gateway for all types of home entertainment. That being said, old Billiam here did approach the CEO of Sony and asked to be software developers for the new PlayStation, but was declined. Microsoft already had video game knowledge up to this point after publishing lots of games for their Windows computers, such as Microsoft Flight Simulator and Age of Empires. So really, it was only a matter of time before Mr. Bill here would start making exclusive video game systems. When Xbox was in development, one of the arguments that the team had was due to the fact that some members wanted to go with an internal hard drive, like a computer, while others did not. Up to this point, Sony's PlayStations and Nintendo's GameCube were using memory cards to save your game files. An internal hard drive would help Microsoft's console stand out and allow for other cool features that Microsoft had planned for, such as online access. Ultimately, they went with an internal hard drive, which would become a staple for all consoles to come after the Xbox. With the video game market dominated by Japanese companies, it was really exciting to see an American company come out with a new video game console. Prior to this, the last major American video game console to be released was the Atari Jaguar in 1993. So, as predicted, when the launch of the Xbox came around, it did extremely well in America, selling over 1.5 million units before the end of 2001, and selling 24 million units worldwide by the end of its life, with 16 million coming from America. It outsold the Sega Dreamcast and the Nintendo GameCube, but it didn't even compete with the PS2, which sold over 150 million units before it was discontinued.
The Xbox didn't sell very well in Japan, probably due to the fact that most of the games created were targeted towards Western consumers. Even though the Xbox sold millions of units and was pretty popular, Microsoft still lost $4 billion during its market life. That's a lot of damage, but for a titan like Microsoft, it obviously didn't affect them that much because they went on to create the Xbox 360, the Xbox One, and the Xbox Series X.
The original Xbox was not my first console, but it was one of my favorites. I was turning 6 years old when my parents had bought the Xbox for me that came with a little game called Halo. That's right, when the Xbox launched, it launched with one of the greatest shooters of all time, Halo Combat Evolved. Xbox knew that if they wanted to have a chance at competing in the console wars, they needed to give people a reason to buy their console. And by damn it, Halo was just what they needed. When the Xbox was first announced, they used every game console's favorite selling points.
We got good graphics. Come get your PC inside your console. It's that good.
I swear to God, every new gaming console says that. Hey, we got good graphics. Buy our console. We've got good graphics. Yeah. Well, to be honest, the Xbox really did have good graphics for the time. Most games supported 480p, while some games did 720p and even 1080i. Oh, and Xbox had The Rock to help sell this console too.
Well, I would think that...
It doesn't matter what you think, Bill. I'm sorry, Bill. It's just a force of habit. Rock apologizes.
What the hell's even going on? Regardless, the Xbox had a great name and a cool design, and one franchise to rule them all. Halo was such an amazing experience that sold the Xbox for many gamers, my dad included. The whole reason he bought the original Xbox was so he and I could play Halo together, and holy hell did we play Halo. What's really cool is I found the old receipt from when my dad purchased the Xbox. Yep, he got it at Target back in 2003 for my birthday. The original Xbox had so many great games that I got so much enjoyment out of. Star Wars Battlefront 1 and 2, Lego Star Wars Republic Commando, Fusion Frenzies, Amp Snowboarding, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3, Area 51, Blinks, Bloodwake, Fable, Gauntlet, Dark Legacy, GTA, The Simpsons Hit and Run, King Kong, Lord of the Rings, Rayman 3, Pac-Man World 2, Halo, and of course the best-selling game on the Xbox, Halo 2, with over 8 million copies sold. Mind you, not all of these games are console exclusives, but I did have them for the Xbox. Even this dinky little demo disc was so much fun to play. Look at this shit. It's got some really fun games on there, plus some freaking music videos. Hell freaking yeah. Halo for sure has to be the game I played the most on the original Xbox. Between beating the campaign a million times with my dad to having screen cheating multiplayer matches with my friends. Come on, I wasn't the only one that screen cheated. I know you did too. There are so many good games on the Xbox that I haven't even gotten to play yet. Morrowind, the Crazy Taxi games, Knights of the Old Republic, Splinter Cell, which is the 5th best-selling game on the console, and many others that I never got a chance to play.
Another defining feature for a console is the controller that you get to play said games on, and Xbox had a rough start to say the least. The Fatty, the Duke, the blunder of the year is what this abomination of a controller is. This big Bertha of a controller was not ideal, especially when I was younger and had smaller hands. I mean, come on, this is a dinner plate, not a controller. See, ladies, bigger isn't always better.
This wasn't Microsoft's preferred controller that they wanted to release at launch, but due to the fact that circuit boards were already made and the company that supplied Sony's controllers refused to manufacture a stacked circuit board design, it left Microsoft with no choice. They did, however, later release a smaller version that handled much better. The first time I ever played on a wireless controller was on the Xbox. Although it wasn't a first-party controller, it still blew my mind nonetheless. Being able to take a piss and play your video game was literally black magic to my 6-year-old head.
This feels right.
Xbox would go on to perfect their controller design in the future, making my favorite controller for the Xbox One. So they did get it right eventually. Another cool thing that the Xbox controllers had were these breakaway cords to keep you from accidentally ripping your Xbox off your entertainment center. Xbox had a bunch of accessories too that you could pick up as well that would make your experience better. From all sorts of controllers to memory cards, it even had a DVD remote and an eye thing that you could plug into your Xbox and watch movies as well. Another innovative thing that Xbox had done was to build the console with an Ethernet port for online play, which was absolutely huge. Xbox Live was the online service that people could subscribe to and play with other subscribers around the world. It didn't take long for Xbox Live to explode, with over 100,000 subscriptions in the first week, 250,000 within 2 months, and by July 2004, 1 million.
It was only compatible with broadband internet, so you dial-up peasants couldn't enjoy this service.
Although Xbox wasn't the first console made to be internet ready, it definitely did online console gaming a huge service. Sega's Dreamcast was the first internet ready console using SegaNet, but nobody talks about SegaNet now, do they?
The original Xbox may have not been the greatest console ever made, nor did it sell as much as the PS2, but it was a huge stepping stone for Microsoft to get into the console industry, along with influencing its competitors for years to come. I love my Xbox, and Xbox as a whole. It was a huge part of my childhood, and it makes me excited to see where Microsoft is going with their newest console releases. Spoiler alert, I ain't buying one. At least not yet anyway. I mean, I have a computer, but don't tell Mr. Bill. I mean, Xbox, you can still send me one. I'm a fanboy. Either way, Xbox, you will always be my first love. And until next time, be kind and rewind.